Do you want to just get right into it, Zach, and talk a little bit about Cornel West 2024?
Yeah, this was okay. So whenever you think that you're going to be done hearing about the MPP forever, that they're just going to experience their slow, agonizing death, like, an animal does when they know it's time. They just kind of wander off into the forest and just go off to die alone. I thought that was what MPP was doing, and I was happy to see it. But this morning, I was checking my email at the coffee shop, as I'm known to do, and I am still subscribed, obviously, to Chris Hedges' Substack. And it just said, Cornel West announces his plan to run for president in 2024. And then I read, for the People's Party. That movement for a People's Party. The sham organization, the MPP, the long dunked upon, countless dollars, hours of energy wasted. I'm really excited. I need to reach out to some of those original individuals, those individual initial whistleblowers, excuse me, like good friend of the show, Renee, among countless others. They came on to our show and talked about how, hey, listen, guys, we really believed in the MPP, but they've abandoned basically every single one of their principles. We're pretty sure that the guy that runs it is a cocaine-addicted sexual abuser. Okay, we have it on good intel. He's been accused very credibly of impropriety across the board. By the way, this isn't just like a singular instance, right? I've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence. Again, anecdotal, so take it for what you will. But I certainly wouldn't want to be associated with a guy who's basically known to make the rounds as like the fucking politico pervert, right? The fucking I'm the Bernie bro pervert that's like trying to get up with all these young, like glossy-eyed women that are sell them on our vision for socialism, so I can manipulate them for sex. Like, yeah, this is the guy that I want to team up with. Not to mention, again, when is the symposium happening, Gavin? When they're not even going to establish a single policy vision for the People's Party. So they said until the people vote on it, and they said it was going to have a horizontal management structure, of which they went back on their word for that. Basically at every angle. They were going to run candidates in 2020. Okay. Basically just lying and smearing anybody who, challenged them for basically squandering tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations, having absolutely no transparency. When we did find out where some of that money was going, we found out that it was going to like an inexcusable amount of money was going to like graphic designs for a project that I believe actually got scrapped. And then what they did come up with was just absolute dog shit, and certainly not justifiable to spend that kind of money on. And then you find out that Nick Branda doesn't have a real job, and supposedly he's not making any money from MPP, but he just has some friends in high places that keep him afloat. Gee, sounds like a real trustworthy guy, Gavin. So got a lot of love for Cornel West. This isn't a shit talking fest on Cornel West. Obviously, he stood for so many wonderful things over the course of his illustrious career. Powerful speaker, as well as a powerful writer, a moral compass for us all. But boy, howdy, was I disappointed to see him make this decision. Not the decision to run for president, something that I never really anticipated he would do, but to make it his decision to run this way, instead of announcing, like, as you mentioned in your tweet, as a Green Party candidate. Just very shocking to me. And honestly, it gives it an aura of unseriousness. Like, imagine a world like we had this morning when Cornel West announced his campaign for president, and not even the likes of Jacobin was covering it.
Yeah, this is completely unexpected to me. Like I said, I was not expecting Cornel West to run for president. And I love Cornel West. Zach and I both love Cornel West. One of the first book clubs we did back in the early days of the Vanguard was Democracy Matters by Dr. Cornel West. Obviously, both Zach and I were immensely moved hearing Dr. Cornel West speak as a surrogate for Bernie Sanders back in the 2016, 2020 days. Can't get a much better ally in this fight than Cornel West, of course. And I think he makes an ideal third-party candidate as well. The guy's been, on the third-party train for a while, able to kind of juggle his support for progressive candidates like Bernie Sanders running within the Democratic Party, but also showing support for third-party, non-duopoly candidates, as he should, given his radical vision of leftist politics. But this is completely unserious, in my opinion, for the sole reason that he's going about this presidential campaign with and through the People's Party, which, as you said, Zach, is a joke of an organization. At best, it's completely unserious. At worst, it's malicious, it's toxic, it's abusive, it's enabled the sexual crimes of founder Nick Brana. It's completely undemocratic. Seemingly, there's not even going to be a primary. I mean, as much as I love Dr. West, shouldn't there be a primary in the People's Party, organization to find out who their candidate is? I'm not really a fan of just like coronating anyone, whether it's Cornel West or Jimmy Dore, who they were previously trying to court for this nomination. You guys might remember Nick Brana embarrassing himself over and over again, begging Jimmy Dore publicly to run as a People's Party presidential candidate, clearly putting his fingers on the scale, his thumb on the scale of who he wants to win their primary, a primary which now doesn't even appear to be happening at all because now they've selected Cornel West. And again, I love Cornel West. Can't think of a much better candidate for president than Cornel West, but I also believe in democracy. And one thing that I actually really like about the Green Party is that they do have primaries and they do have democracy. And I think that Cornel West would have handily won that primary if he decided to participate in it. I really am shocked that Cornel West decided to go about this in the form of a People's Party run rather than a Green Party run, which, despite its faults and despite Zach and I's many criticisms of the Green Party, at least has the basic infrastructure required for this campaign to even be remotely successful. They have ballot access in like 40 plus states. They have
People's Party has no ballot access, and I doubt that they have the organizational infrastructure. Like, even if you read Chris Hedges' article, which we'll pull up later, he's like talking about if this is able to just manifest overnight, and it just goes back to show you how deeply fucking unserious everybody in American politics is. I mean, it's just like they're just like, the same people who lambasted Marianne Williamson for being like so unserious and like incapable of like accomplishing anything are now going to go to like the most shithole, poorly run, infrastructureless organization run by a fucking degenerate coke addict. And all you guys in the chat, I can see you trying to like, galaxy brain me and be like, oh, the Democratic Party's never enabled fucking sexual impropriety. I thought we were presenting an alternative to that. I thought we were presenting an alternative to the Democratic Party. What they claim to be was superior than that. Remember when they were all turning their nose up and they said we're not going to be a part of the Democratic Party? Why? Because of Tara Reid. Remember? Right. Anyway, those were all the people who said they wouldn't dare vote for a sex criminal like Joe Biden and the sex perverts of the Democratic Party and all these kinds of things. Well, guess what? Now your guy, not Cornel West, Jesus Christ, that would be devastating. But Nick Brana, the guy that's leading this sham party, like it's just shiny object politics for people who, unfortunately, I've been fed Jimmy Dore and Tucker Carlson for a long time. And look, I mean, and it's not that Cornel West doesn't represent any of those things. Of course he doesn't. Of course he represents things that are so much better than the People's Party. That's why it's shocking. I don't think he understands where the base of the People's Party is. I don't think he really understands what they've been fed over the past couple of years by the people that he thinks are his allies. Like, do you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I think that he's been fed a lot of horseshit by people that have supposedly, like, Cornel West in his mind, I'm imagining, is still envisioning like 2018 era Jimmy Dore as like an ardent freedom fighter, right? As somebody who is going to be, at the front lines, uncompromising. And when instead Jimmy Dore is like the biggest sellout known to man, okay? He immediately nuzzled up to RFK Jr. Big mistake. We'll get into that later, I'm sure, with his remarks on Roger Waters. I know Gavin wanted to get into that a little bit here later on in the show. But yeah, I just think that he's misaligned himself and that the Green Party is far more of a better vehicle. Or I would like to see him. I mean, I know he's very opposed to the Democratic Party, but if you're going to deal with the corrupt vehicle for becoming president, I would have much rather seen the guy, take the plunge into the Democratic primary, even if he is running against Marianne Williamson. We've said from jump that everybody has the right to jump into this race and that everybody has the right to make their case, for presidency. If he's going to compromise and he's going to, swim in the swamp with a guy like Nick Brana, why not do it for a party that's going to give you national attention? Cornel West has also jumped in the race to challenge Joe Biden, right? That is another news story. That's another thing that challenges the notion that we should just have no debates. Now there's 3 people with national figures that are stepping up to challenge Joe Biden. Like, I wholly support Cornel West and his decision to run for president. I think Cornel West would make a great president. I just think it's a bafflingly poor decision to launch your presidency with the People's Party because he doesn't. There was no primary for that People's Party, right? For one, something that they always said, oh, we're going to put democracy over everything. There's going to be democracy everywhere. Okay, so there hasn't been any democracy. Nick Brana just coronated you. Don't love that, but I can get over that in the face if I thought that they were actually going to get on the ballots anywhere, but they're not. They don't have the infrastructure for it, and any infrastructure that Cornel West brings to them, I think that it would have been far better served as a Green Party candidate, as an independent, or even as a Democratic Party candidate.
MPP sucks away time, energy, money, donations, effort from actual third-party organizations like the Green Party, which at least has ballot access, which at least has run candidates, something that the MPP has been promising for years to do now, and still has yet to have any proof of any progress in that regard. Again, no ballot access, not in a single state, no candidates ever, despite promising over and over again that they were going to run candidates at the congressional level, at various local levels. Nope. Apparently all of those donations, all of that time and energy has just resulted in this Cornel West presidential campaign announcement. And I frankly don't think that this can be taken seriously, as much as it pains me to say it as a huge fan of Cornel West, as someone who deeply admires his contributions. I do not think this can be taken seriously unless Nick Brana and basically everyone that's been a part of the People's Party up to this point leaves, and there's an entirely new and clean house. If they want to just totally start over and just keep the name People's Party, but basically bring in entirely new people, then I'll actually give this a serious look, and I'll be willing to let the crimes of Nick Brana and his cohorts, I'll let that go in support of Cornel West, because I do agree with his message and I do think what he's doing is important. I would be willing to support Cornel West, but not as long as Nick Brana is the head of the People's Party. If he's the one pulling the strings here, then I actually think this would be worth taking seriously. And shout out to you, Colin, for the $2. If Brana stepped down, would that be better? Yes, absolutely. I don't hate Nick Brana so much that I would, refuse to support Cornel West just because at one point he was associated with the People's Party. As long as he is still associated with the People's Party, I don't think I can donate to this campaign. I don't really think I can support it in a serious way, just because I know this man is a grifter, if not a straight up fucking criminal. So I think it would be a waste of everyone's time and money. But yes, if he stepped down, and if other people in MPP that have been there for a while, like Nick Brana's father, also step down, then I'm willing to entertain it. I think it would be somewhat more serious, although I still don't understand why he wouldn't choose to run in a party that already has ballot access and already has the bare infrastructure necessary to run a nationwide presidential campaign in the Green Party. But what do you think about Zach? Do you think there's any chance Brana steps down?
No, no, not unless he's forced out. And look, guys, if you look at the way that the People's Party is set up as an institution, like I'm pretty sure that Nick Brana owns it. Like I'm pretty sure that he owns it as an institution that he can use as like a for-profit money-making purposes. We need to get good friend of the show, Renee Johnson, back on to talk about it a little bit more in depth. But we had her on and we went through all of the tax filings and the way that the MPP was set up. And perhaps this could have changed in the wake of it. That's why, in all of this, and maybe, Cornel West is coming in and, updating that. And like Gavin said, cleaning house. Like I'm not opposed to the idea of Cornel West running, but yeah, he's going to have a lot of ground to make up, ground that he doesn't really have time to make up up, running for what is basically a joke of an organization, one that people basically have no idea exists, right? In the mainstream world of people, when you're actually dealing with like, you know, the millions and millions of votes that you need to gather in order to win the presidency, right? And you have to remember, he's skipping the entire primary phase, right? You know, he's just running as a third party. You know, so he won't get any of that media attention. And I think you can already tell, right, guys? Like, this is a man that just launched his presidential campaign. Look at this. Okay, so look at the engagement right here. It's got 20,000 likes. Okay, so, you know, he has a big enough network here to start with, 1 million followers. Like, he's not an unknown guy. And yet it hasn't been covered hardly at all by even left-leaning outlets. And I think that that's because MPP has been demonstrated to be such a sham organization. And Gavin, you probably remember more about this than me, but remember when we were talking a lot with Renee about how they were literally not even financially structured in a way that they could get candidates on ballots, and that Nick Brano was like the actual owner of MPP, so you couldn't like fire him. In the way the board was set up, he still like would retain control. So there was no way for them to clean house, which means that he would have to voluntarily leave, which we know isn't going to fucking happen. And we know that he's going to be fucking, you know, sticking his blood-sucking tentacles into this entire campaign, making himself a huge part of it. And, you know, honestly, probably trying to, prey on some like I said, idealistic volunteers.
Yeah, let's play that video here in a second. Real quick before we do that, I wanted to read some tweets from David Griscom on the subject matter. I think he put it really well. He says, I don't know why West is lending his credibility and integrity to an institution like the People's Party, which has shown itself to have neither since its launch. I'm all for a Cornel run, but this has a chance of burning him badly. How will he respond to the party leader's sexual assault allegations during the campaign, the party's top-down anti-democratic structure? How can people trust where their donations are going? Cornel will have to build a ground movement, get access to the ballot, build an org. Why attach it to something that is not only has failed at this, but is rife with abuse and corruption? And that's such a great point, right? Not only are you choosing for some reason to run within the People's Party, an organization which has no ground movement, which has no organization and no access to the ballot, but also it's already failed. It's already failed, and it's rife with abuse and corruption. And why does this matter? It doesn't matter because I have personal petty beef or drama with Jimmy Dore and Nick Brana. No, I'm willing to put that aside. I'm not, coming in here and saying that this is like, something that should matter, my personal beef. No, what is important though is the fact that now every time Cornel West takes an interview and every time a journalist decides to write an article about Cornel West, the fact that he's running within this deeply corrupted party, this scandal-ridden party that has completely failed to do everything that it promised, that is going to slowly become a point of contention in the media, in interviews. Every time his campaign is mentioned, it's going to become a thorn in his side, and it's going to distract from the issues that he's actually trying to advance, from the policy agenda that he actually wants to discuss on the campaign trail. Whatever he wants to run on, whatever platform he wants to talk about, he's constantly going to be distracted by this thorn in his side, and it's just going to end up eating away attention and sucking up energy from what could otherwise be a productive and serious campaign.
And I think it's time to just play this fucking video from Cornel West. So let's watch this guy. I hope copyrighted music.
In these bleak times, I have decided to run for truth and justice, which takes the form of running for president of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party. I enter into quest for truth. I enter into quest for justice. And the presidency is just one vehicle to pursue that truth and justice, what I've been trying to do all of my life. I come from a tradition where I care about you. I care about the quality of your life. I care about whether you have access to a job with a living wage, decent housing, women having control over their bodies, health care for all, de-escalating the destruction of the planet, the destruction of American democracy. Democracy creates disruption. It creates an eruption. It creates an interruption wide from below. The energies of everyday people is manifest. And I know there are precious people in your life who you care for. That's why it's important for you to be involved, important for you to participate. We're not talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins, because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech. Neo-fascists like Brother Trump or milquetoast neoliberals like Brother Biden. Wow, I'm so happy to make a world-shaking decision. You know what I mean? Well, I know gangsters when I see them. And gangster's not a subjective expression. It's an objective condition. Do we have what it takes? We shall see. But some of us are going to go down fighting, go down swinging with style and a smile, accenting the best in you and trying to tease out the best in me. Let's do it together.
So it's a good ad. It's a good ad. No cap. That's a good ad. But like I said, I'm really big. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see if it goes anywhere. You know, if it ends up being Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Cornel West for the People's Party is on the ballot in Missouri. Vote for Cornel West, probably.
Oh yeah, 100%. Obviously, I mean,
100%,
Cornel West is a better presidential candidate than the alternatives Joe Biden and Donald Trump, which is why it's so infuriating that he's going about this in the dumbest way fucking possible. Because I would love the opportunity to vote for Cornel West. Are you kidding me? Unfortunately, he's not going to be on the ballot because the People's Party doesn't have fucking ballot access. And they've shown no proof, no evidence of the competence necessary in order to secure that ballot access, or in order to really do anything other than grift money off of gullible people that want a third party desperately and, you know, are easy to exploit because they sincerely believe in the mission. And that's what's sad about this, in my opinion. Are you kidding me? I'd love the chance to vote for Cornel West. Cornel West is a smart guy, and, you know, it brings me no pleasure to have to question his judgment here. But I'm in the position where I seriously am. And I'm not going to sit here and, you know, put on the kid gloves and act like just because Cornel West is this great lefty and he's done so much that I admire and stood for so much that I admire, that he's above criticism. No, he's not above criticism. And the fact that he's decided to go about this in the dumbest way possible by attaching himself and in the process legitimizing one of the worst scams of an organization that, like I said, is at best an unserious joke and at worst a malicious, toxic, and abusive cult. The fact that he's willing to lend credibility and legitimacy to that without seemingly having done his due diligence of researched the people behind the People's Party. Either he has done his due diligence and he knows about that and is proceeding regardless, or he was too lazy to read into it and didn't do his homework and doesn't know about all of the scandals and abuse and allegations that plagued the People's Party and Nick Brana. So either he knows about this stuff and he's proceeding regardless, or he was too lazy to do his homework. And I'm sorry, I can't give that a pass. It's unacceptable in my opinion, and it's completely counterproductive to those of us, myself included, who are actually interested in a healthy and successful third-party movement. There are real third parties. Movement for a People's Party is not one of them, and the ones that are legitimate, such as the Green Party, are dying for a serious candidate. They're dying for a candidate that could give them legitimacy in the same way that you're deciding to give your legitimacy to this fucking joke, to this fucking cult, which has flushed hundreds of thousands of hard-earned dollars down the toilet, has, you know, took in hundreds of thousands of hard, you know, hours of work and volunteer time, flushed it down the toilet. It's a complete waste of time. And I'm sorry, but I do have to seriously question why and how Cornel West thought this would be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he just thought, fuck it, like, my good buddies Chris Hedges and Jimmy Dore really like this. They think it's going to be a good avenue. They've gassed me up. Nick Brana, I know that guy. He hosted us for the move. That I don't really think I don't think he really wanted to look into it, bro. I don't think he really wanted to look into it. I think he got a lot of people. Oh, did you know a lot of that was smears? Like, do you remember we were like the first people ever to ask Jimmy Dore about the bullshit that was going on with the MPP, and he basically chalked them all up to being like smear artists, which is 100% not true. And unfortunately, I was a little bit like, I hadn't cut my teeth in, pushing back too much. And Jimmy, I was like, all right, well, that was his answer. And I was like, I should have, been like, what the fuck? No, these aren't. Anyway, yeah, hindsight's 2020. But we did ask him about this, and I think that he just probably brushed it off to Cornel West. Oh, these are all smears, like, whatever. And yeah, I mean, it is a real big bummer that Cornel West decided not to do his homework, to not look into any of this, to just decide to, again, put his entire legacy, honestly, I don't want to say like on the line, because running for president with a shitty organization doesn't end your great legacy. It's not like he came out as like a child abuser or something, but it definitely, he's lending his credibility somewhere where he ought not, and it will diminish the value of any credibility he tries to lend to future organizations. But Gavin, did you have anything else to say about Cornel West running under the banner of the Movement for a People's Party? I think we've just about ironed that shit out.
Yeah, I feel like we've pretty much exhausted the topic for the time being. We've said what we have to say about this. Very mixed feelings, very disappointed, to be completely honest, with Cornel West for making this decision and choosing to overlook all of the allegations that have come out, all of the accounts, all of the very credible stories that have been told by a variety of people about the organization that is MPP and about Nick Brana himself. And again, even if you don't care about that stuff, and even if you don't really care about workers' rights or sexual harassment, sexual assault, even if that's not stuff that matters to you, it's really unfortunate that someone as serious as Cornel West has chosen as his vessel for a presidential campaign an organization which is anything but serious, which has a track record of complete and abject failure time and time again, which has failed to deliver on any of its promises over and over again, and lied to people, misled them, and stolen their money. I am shocked and disappointed that Cornel West, a hero of mine, would choose that route. But I'm hoping that in the coming days, he's able to offer an explanation which can, if not change my mind, at least make me understand how he came to this decision.